Be careful. He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
Welcome to the Acement, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And tonight is the night.
I never thought I'd hear you so excited over this.
I was rehearsing that all week.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It is our final episode of the Best of 2021, and we certainly did not, we're not giving you the leftovers. This is the Best of Scottober.
That's right.
Yes.
We thought it was good. You know, we thought we were going to have 3 best of episodes, one of them encompassing Scottober, but the more we
were going to,
started
Scottober was going to
clips,
be a section of one episode.
and the more we started doing other episodes, we realized, you know what? And then when we started listening through our Scottober,
Well, that's because you, like a jackass, expanded it to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And originally we did one episode a year. Then we expanded to the month of, and then actually it turned out that we had an episode leading in that turned out to be almost an intro to the month.
right.
It,
I know.
not without even meaning to be.
We didn't mean to, but it ended up being the perfect segue into Scottober.
Yeah, totally unintentionally.
Exactly. Yeah. So we hope you enjoy this episode because
Yes, Ace did.
I thoroughly enjoyed pulling clips for this one, but we're going to start off with our first guest, who was again on the tail end of September, had an amazing story to tell, is a comic. Again, we are a behind the funny podcast, so
Right.
sometimes behind that funny is some tragedy.
Right. And he did tell stories of, he has 2 shows that he does on a regular basis that are very funny shows.
Yeah.
He's been around the comedy scene for a long time. You knew him back in the Periwinkle days. So he has a great comedy history behind him, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to have him on. But he also had this, incredible story to add to it. Like you said, the heartbreak that's behind the funny.
Right. And so I don't know if it's specifically in the clips that we pulled, but Dave Kane is a Rhode Island comic who unfortunately lost his young son, Nicky, age 17, in the Station nightclub fire. And we've talked about the Station nightclub in the past.
Yeah.
We had done comedy there, open mic nights and stuff like that. And so we're going to start off Scottober with a little bit of a somber story with Dave Kane talking about, not so much Nicky being lost, but how he has since sent signs.
Yeah.
It's weird how
somber
Scottober,
but amazing story.
Well, it's weird how Scottober is kind of, we focused on paranormal a lot, and this was a paranormal story that he started off with.
Yeah, very spiritual story.
Exactly.
And I was honored that he felt comfortable enough to share it with us the way that he did. So I think you guys are going to find this really, really interesting.
Here's the thing about the 41. Scott, you'll be interested in this because I know you know nothing about it, so it'll be fun to tell you about it. Beginning the day after the fire, our son started to send us messages and signs that he was okay, that he was fine, that he had survived spiritually, and that he was safe and sound. A year before Nicky died, he wrote a play called They Walk Among Us. The play is about teenagers who die and come back as angels. And he has let us know, and Nicky had a thing for the number 41. He didn't know why. He'd get in the car with us and say, Dad, look, it's 241. And we'd see a license plate. Dad, 4141. We couldn't figure out what it was or why. When Nikki passed, he was 18 and 23 days, 41. The station nightclub is at latitude 41.41.
Wow.
The fire call box at the station is 4414.
Wow.
And on the cover of my book, 41 Signs of Hope, is a picture of Nick. And it's a sketch that Charlie Hall did. Nice. And it is from a videotape we found a year after he passed. And in the videotape, his mom's holding him. He's about 4 months old. And he has a little baseball uniform on. And the number on the cap
is 41.
Is 41.
Holy shit.
Wow.
And it goes on and on and on. We have had tons and tons and tons of signs, music, feathers, coincidences. We have a picture of Nicky standing behind Joanne, his mom, 2.5 years after the fire. And he's standing behind her on Thanksgiving. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories. Nicky loved to tag Christmas trees.
Mm-hmm.
So one year we were tagging a Christmas tree after Nicky passed. And my wife worried that Nicky suffered in the blaze. She worried that he felt the flames. Mm-hmm. It drove her crazy.
Yeah.
And every medium we went to said to us, no pain. That was the phrase they used, no pain.
Right.
When we asked, they said no pain. When we didn't ask, they'd offer it, no pain. Still this day, we're tagging the tree. She's in that mode and she's very upset. And being the kind, gentle, loving husband that I am, I was screaming at her. When are you going to get it? How many times has this kid got to tell you? No pain. Every medium we've been to, no pain. Robert Brown, no pain. Cindy Gilman, no pain. Roland Comtois, no pain. Lisa, no pain. We get in the car. We're going up Breakneck Hill Road in Lincoln. And I said to her, Joanne, what do you want the kid to do? Put it in writing? And as soon as I said that, a car coming from the other direction had the vanity plate, no pain.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Wow.
And I hope you guys found that story with Dave as interesting as I did. And
inspirational, actually.
Very much so. The way he approaches that, tells that story in such, he comes across so positive about it. And if you want to know more about that, he obviously has the book all about it. So definitely check that out. But our next clip that we're going to play was, I was so excited when you booked this guest. And I was very excited about this episode being on Scottober because it falls within the theme of Halloween.
Yes.
But there was no discussion of paranormal.
No, you're right. It actually wasn't discussion of paranormal.
So it just fit within the theme.
Right.
Because
without scaring the shit out of you like we did the rest of the month.
Exactly. Our next clip is from the actor David Naughton. And a lot of you, if you didn't hear the episode, are thinking to yourself, why do I know that name?
Yeah. And you know it because if you grew up in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, you know him as the Dr. Pepper guy.
Right.
And then you might know him from Hot Dog, the movie.
Yes.
You might know him from his disco hit, Making It, and the TV show, Making It. And if you don't know him from any of those,
you definitely know him.
You have to know him from American Werewolf in London because he was the lead actor in that with Griffin Dunn. And that's how it fits in the theme of Scottober. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he was such a great guy to talk to, very open with us, told us a lot of great stories about his history and the people that he's worked with and everything, and turned out to be a super guy.
And, we know what I loved in listening back was I knew that, Rick Baker, everyone knows who Rick Baker is. He revolutionized, movie makeup.
Special effects
makeup, practical special effects makeup, and yet this was the movie that started him on that.
Right, I didn't realize
it, and now here's a guy who's got like a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Also, we found out during this episode, it's not part of this clip, but it's part of the episode if you go back and listen, that this, the year before that, there was a lot of uproar because there wasn't an Oscar nomination for special effects makeup.
Right.
So this was the first year when this movie came out that they had that category, and Rick Baker won for this movie.
Right, exactly.
So this movie won an Oscar for special effects makeup. So a lot of interesting information, came out of this one, and it was a fun episode.
It was the only fun episode for Scott during Scottober. Let's face it.
Yeah, because it definitely gets much worse after this, as you guys will find out shortly. So enjoy David Naughton as much as I will for the next few minutes.
Everything that you are Americanized, if nobody's pointed out to you, they certainly pointed out to you when you get over to a drama school in England, which has a completely different approach. But the wonderful thing about being over there was I got to see so many really great actors on stage. I mean, Laurence Olivier and Alec Guinness, Paul Scofield, and John Gielgud, and all these guys who were, considered some of the best in the 20th century. So,
right. Right.
I got to see them on stage.
Wow.
Little did I know 5 years later I'd be coming back to London to do this little Bow Wow movie, this little.
Yeah. So was that the first big role that you had gotten? Was American Werewolf in London, or had you done anything before that?
Probably the Pepper stuff was bigger, as far as launching my career. After a couple of years at Lambda, which was the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, I returned to New York and said, I never thought that I'd have to do this, is set up shop in New York City, which was always so intimidating growing up, in New England. So, but yeah, if you want to start and be an actor, I was, so I started, in New York, doing, my first job was production of Hamlet at Lincoln Center with Sam Waterston. In the role of Hamlet. And there were a ton of guys, in the cast, many of us, who were just starting out. This was my first professional job as an actor, being in this production, and there were other people in the show, Mandy Patinkin and Stephen Lang and all these guys, Bruce McGill, all these guys who were starting out, and we were the young, hungry guys playing every soldier in the production of a 4-hour play, if you can imagine. And so while I was there in New York, also. I was to get commercial agent, which is what you do, is going up for commercials, and both on camera and voice is very popular these days. But at the time it was on camera national commercials would really give you an opportunity to make a living and actually be considered, hey, I'm actually an actor full time. I'm not doing something else on the side. So that's what really got me going up for different spots. And I went up for these Dr. Pepper commercials in the late 70s. And it was a dance audition, if you can imagine.
Really?
I didn't consider myself a dancer, certainly. But I showed up, and something to do on an afternoon with all these hundreds of other guys. And we all got, our numbers on our shirts, similar to like a chorus line, if anybody's ever seen that.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another, and I continued to be getting called back going, wow, I wasn't nervous before, but now there's only 6 guys left in the room.
And I'm one of them. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're like, oh my God, I've got a real shot at this. If I've made it through this point,
Yeah, and I remember the producer, a woman, was looking at me and kind of giving me the thumbs up, like, what does this mean?
You're our favorite.
Am I like in the running? Because it turned out to be quite a life-changing experience, in the sense that I got cast as this guy for this new campaign to be sort of a Pied Piper idea, but it was going to be 22-day shoot. We were going to travel across the country.
Wow.
We were going to do 60 and 2 30-second commercials, which is only 2 minutes to film and 22-day shoot.
Wow.
Elaborate they are.
Right.
Things you can make movies. I've been in a couple of those that take 22 days or less.
Yeah, that take 22 days.
22 days shoots, you can do a lot of movies in a short period of time like that. And so here we were doing these 3 commercials, which turned out to be better than anyone really expected. And certainly by the next year, once we hit the airwaves, the number of people that would come out for these auditions and want to be dancers on these things was incredible. And that lasted 4 years.
Wow.
And it was probably those commercials that brought me to the attention of John Landis, who had this little autobiographical script that he had written when he was 21 years old, and had this screenplay, and said, I've seen you in these commercials. And, I said, and I did, I backpacked in England. I actually did when I was a student there. I actually went around Ireland on my bicycle for a week or so, trying, as a sort of trying to identify with this character that he had written about. And so we had a nice informal conversation at Universal in his studio. Little did I know what a young guy he was. We were about the same age, but he had these movies like Animal House and The Blues Brothers to his credit, and he was a big deal. And he had this little screenplay that he was finally getting a chance to do his horror film, and gave me the script to read. And he says, "Call me tomorrow." And he gives me his phone number. It was such an unusual sort of an audition, if you want to call it. Called him the next day. He goes, "Well, you want to be a werewolf?"
Holy shit.
He said, "So you got to get over to Rick Baker's shop right away. You got to get over there. He needs you, and I'm going to cast this other, your buddy, Jack, who the role ended up going to Griffin Dunn. And I need to get you guys in the preliminary makeup stages as soon as we can." This was October of 1980. We went over to London in February of 1981, and the movie was released in August of 1981.
So I hope you enjoyed David Naughton as much as Scott did.
Love that. That was my favorite Scottober episode.
Yeah, well, Upcoming is one of my favorite Scottober episodes. So it's one of my favorites, and I wasn't even there. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I just helped set it up. So again, we have to give a big shout out to our buddy Tom Stewart, because
Tom's awesome.
Not only has he been a stand-in host multiple times, for us whenever one of us is on vacation.
Right.
He's usually available. He's got his own great podcast, but he helped me set up what was one of the ultimate setups for you. You just thought Tom was coming in to be a guest host with you
and
this
then
time.
You told me that he was going to have a special guest, and neither one of you told me who.
Exactly.
And I honestly did not have any idea. I thought maybe someone he had done investigations with in the past, something like that. I honestly did not have any idea who he was bringing in or what was going to come along with them.
There are these are some of the funniest clips from the season to me. To me, absolutely to me, I know. But they were, so the Paranormal Couple. What was interesting is, even though we're going out of order in how Scottober happened, we had talked about one of these people a few weeks before when our dad was on.
Right.
So we had the Paranormal Couple on, and that is Satori Hawes, daughter of Jason Hawes.
Right.
And Cody DesBiens. Is that how we say it?
I think that's how you say it. Or DesBiens.
DesBiens. Just like Master Thespian. No. Sorry. I don't know where that came from. Acting genius. Thank you.
Because you always have a voice on tap, ready to go.
Always in the hopper. But yeah, Cody and Satori came on, and not only did they come on, but they're known for being, Paranormal Couple, but they have a paranormal museum. And what I loved about this was, towards the end, you'll hear them talk about one of the artifacts that they bring, which is just hilarious to hear you. I could actually hear you sweating on this.
Okay.
And then
just a little backstory. Okay. I have never.
Don't give it away.
No, not about that. About me.
Yeah.
I have never liked paranormal stuff. I have stayed away.
Mm-hmm.
I have, that's a paranormal show on TV. Fuck that channel. On to the next channel. I have stayed as far away as possible. Ace is very interested in this stuff. He likes it. He's interested. Tom Stewart used to actually do paranormal investigations, has a podcast, My Paranormal Story, doing very well. And he does a great job with it. I've listened to it. Mm-hmm. So two of my best friends are very much into this stuff. So they brought it to our podcast. So now, at first, I was forced to listen to it, but I do have this guarded outside interest. So they set up this one. I have no idea these people are coming in. Before we start the podcast, Tom walks in, Satori and Cody, and they're bringing in a suitcase. And I'm like, what the hell is the suitcase?
My favorite part, and you're not going to hear it in the clip, but earlier maybe you do hear it in the clip, but you say, if you bring a blank.
You will hear it.
Okay. That's what made me laugh the hardest, because then poor Satori goes, oh, well, this is going to be interesting.
Yes,
she was afraid.
She was almost uncomfortable because I mentioned something about it. But, at the very end, to give it a little... Well, we'll talk about it when we come back.
Okay. Just enjoy.
You got to hear
one.
it first, and then there's a clip at the end that we'll explain when we come back. And see if you can tell how many times I squirmed and was uncomfortable looking at the artifacts and the items brought in by the Paranormal Couple. Tom is here to join us this week for Scottober, as our friend Jen, who I know is watching tonight, has nicknamed this month.
Oh, she came up with it?
Jen came up with it.
Oh, good job, Jen.
Yeah. And she reminds me of it several times a week. Thank you, Jen.
You need like creepy music every time you say it. Scottober.
No, we don't.
Like thunder clapping or something.
No. I'll start singing the Thunder Buddy song from Ted if you're going to go there.
Sometimes we find that the spirit that this object originally belonged to, they're not really happy with their new owner. So that's when stuff starts to get stirred up.
So most of it is like an attachment.
I
think so. Attachment triggers just heavy energy from intentions and things like that. But we do have a small portion of objects that we do believe have some sort of possession, as if the spirit is kind of attached themselves to this object and use it as a physical conduit to interact.
Are we talking Annabelle, Chucky type things?
Yes, similar.
If you pull a doll out of that,
he may crap his pants right here. He might.
Well,
is Ace still watching?
Over.
I'm just
fun
It's going to be really fun.
Oh, boy.
Ace, if you're still watching, I am going to kick the shit out of you next week when you're back. That's all I know.
If I can handle it, you can handle it.
You'd be surprised. You would be surprised.
What do you think before we show? Well, you want to show them and they guess what it is?
Oh, yeah, sure. We can do that.
I'll take a look. Let me see.
All right. So what do you think that is? Here, I'm passing it over. What do you think that is?
Well, it's got a hole, so it almost looks like something they would wear, like a medallion or something they'd wear around their neck. Almost. Nowadays, it could be like something someone would have on a key ring.
I've seen one of these before.
You might have. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
Is it like a marker for like a tomb or something?
It's a toe tag.
Oh, it's an actual toe tag.
Oh, lovely. You can have that back.
That's great.
The story behind this is
That's
a woman.
So cool. It says Swan Point Cemetery right on it.
It doesn't seem like it has that negative activity. So you guys can
hold
it.
No negative activity. Just because people aren't going to be able to see
toe
it on there.
tag.
But see, it's just a round metal tag, and it says Swan Point Cemetery on it around the outside, and then it says Providence, Rhode Island, and then it has a letter with 4 numbers. Which they must keep records in.
Right.
They
do, yes.
So were you able to identify who it was from?
So what happened was a woman was mowing her
Should
front.
I have not thrown it?
I don't know if you would have liked that.
There we go.
All of a sudden, you're going to feel a slap.
Yep, exactly.
So this was a case that we had worked with. So a woman was mowing her front lawn one day and finishes mowing the lawn. She's sitting on her front steps and notices something glistening in the sun in her front lawn. Walks over to it and thinking it's a coin, she brings it inside of the house. As soon as she brings it inside the house, paranormal activity starts to happen. Shadows, footsteps, getting tapped on the shoulder. She starts, looking at it under a magnifying glass and notices that it has, same as cemetery and a number. Has no idea what it is. Knows it's not a coin. Contacts a cemetery. Guy at the other end of the line is actually really baffled, and he goes, "Well, ma'am, that's a toe tag, and it belongs on one of my bodies. That's in the cemetery." And she's trying to figure out who it is, and they said, "Well, for privacy, we can't tell you who it is, but it definitely should be on the body. We have no idea how it ended up."
Yeah, I was going to say my question would have been, how did it get here?
Get in her front yard.
So of course, my first thing is, okay, well, maybe after she of course didn't want it because it was causing paranormal activity.
She tried giving it back.
It back to him, and the guys were like, "I don't want it. It's not on the body. I don't want it. I don't even want to open that can of worms." So anyway, the toe tag is donated to the museum, and we start doing a lot of research. And my first question is, was the gentleman or the woman cremated, and they spread the ashes at like a childhood home or something? So we again confirm, was this person cremated, or and or was not cremated, and the person said, no, the person wasn't cremated and supposed to be buried in the cemetery. So I was like, okay, that's even more strange. So now we start talking to some colleagues and stuff like that, and then we get alerted of this strange weather event in the 1950s where there's 2 hurricanes back to back. You may have heard stories about this, Tom.
Yeah.
And
I've done investigations because of it.
So 1956, I believe it was
55.
2 hurricanes, 55 or 56. Yeah. I believe it was 56. 2 hurricanes back to back, summer of 1950s there. About 30 inches of rain on this whole area, and dislodges a lot of caskets from the local cemeteries, mainly in Woonsocket area.
Literally
Providence,
washed them up.
going down Main Street, ending up in people's front yards, getting washed out to the ocean, and they can't return all of the bodies because a lot of them are all broken open. The casket broken open. They have no way of putting everybody back. So could this be how this toe tag ended up in this woman's front yard? That's the best guess. We bring objects into the museum and put them in their sections, what we think is the right section
but
for them.
they'll always tell us if it's not.
And then stuff starts to happen.
Right.
Yeah, stuff starts to happen. It's like sitting at the wrong lunch table at school, and you have to move the person until everything's happy inside of them. It's crazy when you tell stories like this, but it happens. It happens.
We brought one object that's notorious for that tonight.
Absolutely.
Oh, you brought it with you?
Oh, yeah.
She's not one to be touched. Just a warning. She's not very...
Not a problem.
Okay.
Not an issue.
All right.
That just makes me want to touch it more.
Have at it, Tom.
Yeah.
She's not very fond of
That's
it.
okay. I won't touch it. I will totally respect that.
She is the most haunted object we have in our museum.
Oh,
here you go.
Well, thank you for bringing
There you
it
go.
then.
All right.
Oh, it had to be a doll.
Shit.
It had to be a porcelain doll, right?
All right. It did, right?
Dolls are the spookiest
The creepiest
things ever.
Yeah,
Well,
they are.
This is Liza, and we had gotten her from a gentleman in Massachusetts who had called Cody after a podcast. And pretty much all he said when he called Cody was make it stop. And we had to calm him down. We had a psychologist reach out to him because we thought maybe this man was mentally ill and looking for help. She said he cleared. She gave him a quick questionnaire over the phone before we even decided to keep in contact with him because we were so worried. And she was like, he seems okay. He's just struggling really bad right now. We then contacted him and was like, okay, what's going on? He says, I have this doll, Liza. She's talking to me in my head to do bad things to myself and other people. Red flag goes up because now it's a safety concern. We're worried about him and anybody associated with him. We ask, okay, can you give us more information? Why didn't you try getting rid of this doll? Because he said his life was falling apart. He said, I did. She just keeps coming back. What he meant by that was he threw her in the dumpster and the garbage man found her, took her out of the dumpster, cleaned her up and sat her back on the front porch for him to find in another time. So it seemed that he couldn't get rid of her.
Are you kidding me?
This is the story we were told. And
could you turn her to look more towards Tom?
It's staring right at you.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
So she's a Victorian era doll. She has that cloth body with porcelain feet, hands, and head. So she's older, but he couldn't get rid of her. She kept coming into his life and ruining it. So we said, okay, we will meet with you in public and we will take it just for safety reasons. He met us in public. He needed to get rid of it. We said, okay, can you tell us where you got it from? He wouldn't tell us, which makes us think either he dabbled in something he wasn't supposed to, or she's just not very fond of where he got her from. Maybe he took her without her permission. We brought her home, put her in the museum. She's the most active object because she doesn't sit still. She talks. She does everything you can imagine. We had her in a doll section and all the other dolls' heads turned 180 degrees backwards, facing away from her. They wouldn't keep in their direction. I don't know if it was her or them, but we tried this a couple times and every time it was a bit more aggressive. Some would be falling over, their heads that aren't supposed to be turned, their entire body was turned around, things like that. So we had to move her to a shelf because every case we put her in, she gets out of. And that was the compromise. We do have footage of her actually moving if you would like to see it from 2:30 in the morning.
Yes. Yeah, if I can pull it up.
She is an object possession. What we mean by that is she has nowhere else to go. She's always with this item. This item's always moving. It's almost like she's still alive and she's using this item to be alive.
How did you come up with the name Liza?
This is what he told us. He told us that her name was Liza, and that's how she was speaking to him.
Keep watching.
She picks herself up, adjusts her position, and sits back down. You'll see it up close.
Gives me chills.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, some people say they see her eyes move too, and
That was at 2:30 in the morning.
creepy.
I hope you enjoyed that section as much as I did.
You're talking to the audience.
Yes,
obviously.
I'm talking to the audience because I know that you didn't enjoy that. It was so awesome. What I love is not
interesting.
only it was like a progression. They bring in the suitcase. And then you're like, oh, if you pull a fucking doll out of there, and then Satori's uncomfortable going, oh, this is going to get interesting. And then you pull the doll out, and then they start telling the story of how she moved on her own. And what I love is the clip you hear at the end wasn't on the original podcast.
No, that was afterwards.
It was after the podcast when they were able to get the clip to run of Liza moving at 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And them showing that video to Scott. So that's what you're hearing, that
single
last clip.
Creepiest, scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. And I ended up getting to see that when I got back. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But yeah, that was an amazing clip. I don't even know how to describe it.
And if you weren't watching it when we recorded that live, because we do record live on Wednesday nights, follow Behind the Funny on Facebook and you can see when we go live.
Yes.
And you heard the clip of when they passed the toe tag around. When I tossed it back to Satori, I took the bottle of bourbon in front of me and splashed them in my hands like hand sanitizer and cleansed my hands of the toe tag juice or whatever the juju or the bad mojo that was on it, and because I was like, oh my god,
I know, that was so funny.
So yeah, those were some of the special things from the couple,
which actually leads us into who we doing next?
Oh, Ken DeCosta.
Oh, so it's perfect timing because I got to meet Cody and Satori at the paranormal conference that Ken DeCosta invited us to.
Yeah, we got to go.
So
check these guys out. Yeah,
Ken DeCosta is you've heard him on the show before. He's a paranormal investigator with Riseup Paranormal. He's also as he says in the episode, a crossover member of TAPS. So we had Ken on, and he had some great stories. It was cool because Ken was the last one of the month.
Yes,
and by the last week of the month, you had loosened up a little bit. You even admitted on one of the clips that you were feeling a little bit more comfortable about paranormal and more curious now than scared.
Yeah, well, because a lot of these experts, and they are absolutely experts, the way that they explain it and approach it is not from a scary movie, scary show type of thing. The way Jason Hawes would explain it, the way that Ken would explain it, they approach it from a scientific standpoint, and then they approach the history of the places and everything like that.
Right.
So when you really start to understand how they approach their investigations, you look at it very differently.
Right.
And it's I'm very curious, and I have more of an interest than I've had in the past, but it's still somewhat guarded.
Yes, I know.
It's still somewhat guarded. But Ken was an amazing guest. And I was so glad to have him.
We had fun when Ken was on, and you'll hear it in the clips. We were joking. We were joking around a bit. So
he's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And there was a couple times. There's one in here especially that made me laugh hard when I listened back to it when Ace is saying something and Ken came back with a great comment. That was hilarious. So this one was not only very informative, it was a lot of fun. So enjoy Ken DeCosta. What were some of the things that you've gotten from Payne House in your investigations that were kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe we got this, or I can't believe I just heard that, or things that really kind of you were like, Mike, this is amazing.
I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest version of this.
Yeah,
but
just a couple of them.
At one point, we were downstairs, and it was kind of like a very inactive, quiet night, which is something people have to realize. There's hours of mind-numbingly boring nothing.
Yeah, nothing, right.
And it was one of those nights, and one of our investigators, our videographer, Julie DeMay, was kind of complaining about, nothing's happening. And then a little girl's voice goes, "Teddy bear." And as she pans the camera down, there's a little teddy bear sitting there, because we kind of put toys around the house. But the really cool thing is, if we're talking 17 and 1800s at Payne House, there's no one that has any reference to a teddy bear. They weren't invented till like 1920.
Really?
Named after Teddy Roosevelt, and they were made by a German manufacturer, Steve anyway, whatever it was.
His hair is up on his arms again.
So immediately what that makes us think is, okay, if this is a little girl or a child's voice from that era who doesn't know what this is, it sounds like she's learning from us.
Right. It's an intelligent haunting, right?
Exactly right, Ace. Yeah, exactly right. So she's picking up our little terminology and things like that.
Wow.
But there have been other things like we've caught a rocking chair.
I've seen that video. Yeah.
Tom must have showed you that because he set that up with Doreen Collins from Channel 10 that night.
Oh, yeah.
And I was about to erase the clip until he called and said, hey, Doreen wants a little film clip of her like kind of faux flashing the camera or goofing around up there. I was about to erase it. And then when I reviewed it just before when we were downstairs to see the rocking chair going.
Wow.
So I wish I could say it was like skill, but it was just dumb luck.
Right. It's just what you happen to catch. Right.
But there are so many things. At one point, I saw a little girl float across a hallway there. First time as an investigator that I've ever seen what you could term a ghost. And I'm going to tell you what. People who go around high-fiving each other, yeah, I saw a ghost. They probably didn't see anything because when you do see something, I wasn't terrified or anything like that, but it just changes everything. You need a minute to
process it, right?
What did I just see? Why me? Well, why not me? You know what I mean? But it's why I'm here. But there have been all sorts of things, not only to myself that we've recorded. I mean, there's literally reams of data over 10 or 11 years, whatever we've been there.
That you've been
from
there.
that particular place, that footsteps coming upstairs and no one's there, things like that. But these are all things we've documented, recorded, or have on video. So that's that's the cool part.
Friends who I grew up with who were very, very Catholic. I'm Catholic, but friends who were very Catholic who were like, oh, I don't believe in ghosts. Oh, but you believe in angels. Aren't angels nothing more than ghosts? They're people who used to live on the earth. You're just saying that they have wings. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Yeah. Excuse me. I just burst into flames here.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm about to burst into flames too any second.
You brought up angels and burned our guest.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I just think, but a lot of it is also, I mean, in every religion, there's some basis of good and evil in all of it.
Yeah.
But culturally, if you look at Native Americans, the indigenous people, they would call upon spirits to possess them for wisdom and knowledge and guidance and so forth. And then, in Christianity and Catholicism, we look at it like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing in the world.
Right. So
that's what it all comes down to a lot of times, man.
Listen, I've said it. It's a premise for a joke that I haven't done yet because I probably will burn in hell for this. But I'm like, what if
You've already lit that fuse a long time ago.
But I'm like, think about it. Like, even if you look at Star Wars could be a religion. It's good. It's evil. It's the Force. It's this. How do we know the Bible wasn't just a script for a play someone wrote?
The crazy part about the paranormal, and in a way, I guess it's cool.
Yeah.
Because you can get an atheist who is a paranormal investigator. You can get an agnostic who's a paranormal investigator. You can get, whether, you're a Jew or a Catholic or a Muslim, you can be a paranormal investigator. So it almost kind of transcends all of these things.
Right. Because to your point before, it's not just about religion, it's about spirituality. Every religion believes in spirituality in some sense, right?
That's right. So the idea is if they've lived there for 20 years and they've had A, B, C, D, E, F happen, so we go in there for 6 hours, is it really reasonable to expect that everything you've ever experienced in 20 or 30 years there
is going to
happen to me in 6 hours?
Right.
If we walk away with one thing, let's say we get a voice that, because I run it through sound programs, voice analysis, I can tell you if that's an actual voice or if somebody kicked a chair in the other room.
Right.
Because sometimes when you record it, it might sound like "got the rock out," and it's actually somebody kicking a chair.
Right.
So once we run through all of that, I can come back and say, okay, here's something I can't explain. It doesn't sound like something's out to get you. So I'm going to give you a conclusion, and maybe some advice, but in no way, I'm not painting myself to be the last word in this.
Right.
All I can tell you is draw from the experience I've had at other places. Don't allow yourself to be a victim. affirm yourself because you're busting your ass to pay the mortgage on this place. And I've had people, it's like there's 5 different rooms in a 9-room house that they don't want to go into.
Right.
And that to me is unacceptable. It's like, come on, man, you got to claim your space here. And sometimes all it is it sounds crazy, but you stand in the middle of the living room. It's like, all right, ghost. And I'm not saying you chase them away, but psychologically that makes you feel as though you're taking power back. So all these little things that you can do, they help people.
That makes sense.
Awesome. That's awesome. This was fun.
That makes total sense. Yeah,
I feel a little calmer this month.
You know, it's interesting because I've seen a change in Scott over the month that he has gotten more comfortable with this. Yeah.
I'll tell you, this last section I was a little starstruck the first time you introduced me to Jason Hawes because, I mean, obviously he is extremely well known.
Yeah.
He's had multiple shows, Ghost Nation, Ghost Hunters, that were hugely popular.
Yep.
But he's one of the most just down-earth, average guys you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
And he talks about these investigations like you and I talk about going and doing comedy gigs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like nothing to him.
Well, because he's been doing it for so long. And, you know, one of the things that we even pointed out on this episode is if you notice all of the paranormal investigators and paranormal people that we've spoken to, they all have the same demeanor. They're all just trying to get to the facts. They're all just trying to find out what it is, whether it's paranormal or normal. They go in just trying to investigate. They're not trying to find ghosts. And they all have that same calm demeanor.
It's amazing
when they investigate, which I love.
I love when you just heard Ken DeCosta talk about going into a room and just telling the entity or spirit of the haunt that
this is my house.
This is my house. I'm thinking I would be running down the street, but he's like, no, you just got to take control of the situation and everything. And he's just so calm and confident about it. It's amazing.
And that's how Jason is. Jason is always, kind of calm and like that. And I just love Jason. The way he tells his stories, he's got so many to tell. I mean, it's also funny at some point. I definitely admit that I geeked out a bit and kind of monopolized this interview, which you'll hear, you'll hear during the interview.
And some of that. Okay, yes, you did. Yes, you did, because you guys were friendly. Obviously, you knew each other. You were totally geeked out about asking him questions.
Mm-hmm.
This was kind of the first official Scottober.
So you kind of were quiet.
So I was kind of quiet and reserved and held back a little bit. And you'll hear the clip of the moment that Jason realizes that Ace is monopolizing the conversation.
It's funny the way he did it.
It's pretty funny. So enjoy Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation.
Comments, or if you want to talk about
whatever you want to do, Ace. I'm not even here. No. So don't even worry about it.
Welcome to
tell me who I'm talking to.
Welcome to Behind the Funny with
where
Jason,
Scott is behind everybody else.
You said you didn't want anything to do with Scottober, so I'm fucking taking over. I'm kidding.
He's sort of like an old married couple.
Oh, please.
Oh, you don't even.
Of course, I'm in the middle.
So the first episode of the new season, just a kind of a preview. Where are you guys at for that one?
We are at Missouri State Pen, which we investigated over 10 years ago, and they called us back because they found some bicentennial cells that they didn't know were there. They ended up digging and realized, what have we found here? And they ended up finding all these cells, and with that, some crazy activity started picking up.
Really? Because they found them.
I'm not going to say if it's because they found them, but I'll tell you that the activity started happening, and some people were dealing with some aggressive stuff happening, and there were a lot of people that were very uncomfortable there.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't dig people.
No, exactly.
Well, really, and you always want to do that. You always want to try to look for what's really going on.
Because
hey, Scott, how are you, man? I didn't even realize you're here.
I just got here. I just got here.
See you, man. It's been a while.
Nice to see you. How are you, buddy?
Because it lends credibility to what you guys do. All right, I'm going to shut up.
No. I just have to keep on at least acknowledging that he's here with us.
I know.
No, it's okay. I'm just over here hiding in the corner.
Oh, man.
There's some stuff that happened, man, and there was I'm sure you don't know how to explain it, but I mean, I don't remember the episode, but I remember there was one episode where the guy was holding a DAT recorder around his shoulder. And the fucking thing lifted right up.
And it was actually his whole audio pack. So, and it was Frank. Yeah. That was at the Boston Armory, New Bedford Armory. Sorry,
New Bedford Armory.
Yeah. And the whole thing came, and we had it all on camera.
Right.
And I mean, literally, and he ended up going into shock after that happened.
Yeah, you could tell he was visibly shaken.
Yeah, medical
it
people
messed with him,
and he did not want. I mean, he was one of those people who didn't care for the paranormal. He didn't really believe in it, and after that, didn't want to come back. And
Scott, if you ever want a sound job, they might need someone to hold a boom mic and a DAT recorder. Our buddy Tom Stewart, who has worked with Riseup Paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to actually have Ken DeCosta on at the end of the month. We just confirmed him today. He said, are you concerned with spirit attachment? Has anything ever followed you home?
I'm not concerned with it. And damn, if someone wants to follow me home, I can investigate from the comforts of my couch. I wouldn't have to go anywhere.
Especially if it's a succubus.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Hey,
you better hope you're talking about the right one. Yeah. So, but
you just changed my opinion on all this.
All of a sudden,
just with that word.
There's horny ghosts. What? Scott's in.
So
I'm all in.
I've always felt that I don't believe in going in somewhere with a holy water or a cross or anything, because I never want to go in somewhere that with something that if it's taken away from me, I feel vulnerable.
Right.
So, and I've always been a big martial artist and things of that nature. So I feel like your power comes from inside you to protect yourself. Now, I've never had anything follow me home. Some claim they have, but in all seriousness, first off, if someone wants to follow me home, I got 3 sons and a daughter and my mom who live at home with me. God bless them, because that thing's gonna be like, what the hell did I just do? What choice? This is the worst choice I could have ever. Yeah, I mean, it's like so. But no, honestly, I mean, someone wants to follow me home. We filmed at the Slater Mill years back, and there was claims of this boy, and we kept on hearing him running, and I said, hey, you're welcome to come home with me. Right. Now, it never happened.
Yeah.
But you heard him running?
Yeah, we heard him running and all these other things. And it never happened. But if something wants to follow me home, I could investigate from my couch or wherever. It'd be perfect.
What was some of your favorite investigations?
Some of my favorite. Well, St. Augustine Lighthouse is one of my favorite.
Just showed that video last night.
Well,
did I? Yeah. That scared me more than anything I've ever seen, because Ace had told me about it. I looked it up and watched it. That scared me.
That thing shot
so
up
much.
That thing shot up the staircase
3
so
seconds.
fast.
Oh my God.
And here's the crazy part: we were not even set to film at St. Augustine Lighthouse, so we were asked to investigate the Ripley's building that's there in St. Augustine.
Yep, right. Yep.
And some weird things were said between talking back and forth that made me feel uncomfortable. Like I couldn't trust doing an investigation there. Like I had to worry. Yeah, like I had to worry about possibly something being manipulated. So I decided not to. And we, me and the production guys, we had a couple days off. We're like, let's rent some mopeds. So we all rented mopeds, because that's the thing to do in St. Augustine.
Right.
And we drove around, and I ran into some locals, and they're like, hey, have you thought about checking out St. Augustine Lighthouse? I said, nah. They said, you got to go over and talk to the people over there. They know you're in town. And I went over and I talked to them, and they told us all about the activity they were having there. And I finally, upon talking to them, I'm like, you know what? We got to check this place out, because it sounds interesting. And wild. So from there, we decided we were going to investigate it for the next week. And it turned out to be one of the best investigations I think I've ever done. Yeah. And that thing that shot all the way up to the top of the lighthouse, and then didn't even set off the motion sensor light, and you could see it.
And you saw it.
Yeah. Right. You saw it lean over. But then when we went up there, we set off the motion sensor lights.
Right.
So, and just how fast that thing went. I mean, that thing went up all those flights of stairs in 3-4 seconds. It was amazing.
It looked over once, like four stories up, and then all of a sudden, 3 seconds later, it was at the top, leaning over again, and didn't set off the motion.
And it was insane. And then the even creepier is, if you think, we got to the top, we set off the motion light, and there was nothing there. So that means at some point it passed us.
Right.
It went down as we were going up, and we didn't see it.
Right.
So, which is even stranger. That and Stanley Hotel is one of my favorite places, because I mean, on camera, we had said we were there. A lot of people don't. I mean, we were at these places for a week to 2 weeks, and we had cameras set up in the rooms. And one night, the glass shattered from the inside. It was weird, and it fell, and it was all caught on camera. Yeah. And then we also caught my closet literally unlatch itself, open, close, and relatch itself. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that some of the claims there were that before it was the Stanley, there was this other gentleman who owned the building, and he used to hide in that closet and watch people when they were sleeping and sneak out and steal their jewelry off the table and everything. So it was creepy. And then I had to sit there and think, well, this just happened, and I'm still going to be in this room for a week. Right. And I'm like, I'd like to sleep in the hallway, but how do I tell my kids, don't you ever be scared of this stuff? But Dad just slept in the hallway at the Stanley. Yeah. I mean, oh my God. It was a wild place.
Joan says, Stanley Hotel in the tunnels. You said you heard a spirit say hello. Yeah. I'm saying it's a cat.
Oh no. I mean, that's during the live show. We not only did we have a hello, we had that. Yeah. That was under like the little girl. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah. I remember that one.
That was creepy.
Scott. Scott's like, okay, are we done yet? He got quiet.
You heard a little girl say hello?
You didn't see that episode? It was fucking amazing. Yeah.
What's so creepy about a little girl saying hello? Are you that much of a pansy?
Yes, yes, I am. Okay. That doesn't bother me. That someone saying that to me does nothing for me.
Jen goes like all these great stories that I can't really get past when he said he invited a ghost home from Slater Mill.
Yes, I know. I know.
What am I? I love this stuff. I live for it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, hello. You're the guy when it comes to this stuff.
So we hope you enjoyed this this final part 4, best of 2021, but specifically best of Scottober. I know it was a lot of fun to pull these clips and listen back to these episodes.
Well, you put I got hats off to you. You put a lot of work into booking that month.
Yeah,
some incredible guests, and so they all complemented each other very well. Like I said, Dave Kane started off the month just coincidentally.
Yep.
Because we had him booked as a comedian we wanted to talk to, and he has the story of his son, so that worked out. But then Jason Hawes, David Naughton was even though it wasn't paranormal, the tie-in with American Werewolf in London was perfect.
Right.
The Paranormal Couple, as a surprise guest was pretty damn amazing.
Yep.
Probably the one episode I was the most uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
The whole month.
You could tell.
Because they had the shit with them.
Yep. I know.
I think the only way that would have been worse is when we had Ken DeCosta on, if we did his episode in the Pain House.
In the Pain House.
That would have the only thing that could have been worse.
And coincidentally that you say that, part of what came out of Scottober is we have now been invited to the Pain House. We could potentially go to the Conjuring House. And we've talked about doing an investigation at the Bradley Theater.
Yes.
So 3 possible investigations. We went to the Paranormal Con, the Paracon, and met. I just forgot her name, but Perrin, the oldest daughter of the Conjuring, the real family.
The family that lived there when all those things were happening.
Who said she would come on next year to tell true stories from the
folks,
Conjuring House.
Ace is already lining up shit for next Scottober.
The Paranormal Couple have much more than that one little suitcase, so they're coming back. So
definitely.
Get ready.
And they have been on the newest season of Jason's show on Discovery Plus.
Exactly.
So they'll have some stories from that.
And maybe because she's in Boston, because she felt slighted this year,
Sherry.
Maybe we could get Sherry DiBenedetti. I'd love to have her come in.
I love watching, because I'll admit, I've watched some Ghost Nation on Hulu.
Look at you.
I have watched some episodes. And, all those investigators, they have their own style. So, you can get a different look. So it'd be fun to have her. And I will admit, fully, people, when we do these investigations, I did make a promise I would go on the investigations. Ace is going to tape it, and I am scared shitless of doing this.
I'm taping it only so that you can see whatever we're taping instead of seeing the camera shake the entire time.
Yes, he's going to be in control of all that because I'm going to have to concentrate on not shitting my pants the whole time. But we will share those with you so that you can hear the outcome of whatever happens, good or bad. But we appreciate you guys, the support, people that tune in when we're on live on, Twitch TV, Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling every Wednesday night. The people that download every single week. You guys are just awesome. We appreciate it. Continue to share with your friends. Spread the word about us. If you got a moment, please give us that 5-star review wherever you download your podcast. That is always a huge help to the podcast. It helps every podcast. Any podcast you listen to, that's a great way to help. It only takes you a couple minutes, and it's just a big deal for us. So
absolutely, and
we appreciate that.
Already lining up guests. Coming up. I've already got them. Next week, tune in. We've got the guy who actually started the Comedy Channel before it became Comedy Central, Art Bell. Great story to tell, man. He was a great guest, so you're going to love that one. But listen, thank you so much for listening. We can't thank you enough. And other than that, we will talk to you
next week.